Right, back again for a crazy episode. This is already episode 17 of Clan Brandolorian, the podcast. I do have a special guest today. And when we talk about special guests, this is one where we can talk Funko, we can talk almost all collectibles within the Star Wars universe. And today I'm going to pick his brain with what he likes and what he doesn't like within the Star Wars universe regarding film and series. So hopefully you guys enjoy this episode. Let's go ahead, run the intro.
Starship on the jet.
Let me go ahead and add Patrick to the stream.
Hey,
how are we doing today, brother?
very good. I just got back momentarily from my lodge Easter party, and besides the Easter bunny, we had a visit from Chewbacca and R2-D2. So the kids really enjoyed it. I don't know who enjoyed it more, me or the kids. I'll be honest. I had a great time. It was just a lot of fun, and it was just really nice that the brothers, when they planned the party, knowing that me and another guy had done this for a number of years, they thought, let's bring Chewbacca in. I think Pat will enjoy that. So I thought that was really nice of them. So great time, and couldn't wait to get here to hang out with you for a little bit, man. Very excited for today, man.
Yes, this was one I wanted to get done. I got Lex on the channel as well. I have had Chris on probably a month and a half ago, and yeah, you were the missing link from the crew.
The missing Star Wars Popcast member. Yeah. So
Yes.
cool.
But yeah, now the cycle is complete and we can continue to run the empire. But yeah, Patrick, I have already given you just a slight introduction, and let's go ahead and kick it off with the show and tell aspect that I like to do on my show. For those that are new to Clan Brandolorian, the podcast, every time I get a new guest on, I would love for them to show off anything in their collection, whether that's a toy, whether that's a picture, anything physical, can even be a t-shirt or a tattoo. I do know that there are Star Wars fans out there that don't have as big a collection, and they probably have a lot more money than I do. So that's good for them on their part. But yeah, Patrick, if you'd like to go ahead and show off your show and tell, let's
Sure. So my show and tell is I'll show you two things that I recently just did unboxing videos for that I just received in mail earlier this morning. So
nice.
The first was the Jar Jar and General Grievous 2-pack from GameStop from the Clone Wars series. I was very excited to get this, and even during the unboxing videos, you'll eventually see when it drops, is they kept saying when it was shipping, your item is shipping, it kept showing Maul first Brave Vizsla. I'm like, I hope that's not what the ship, because I already ordered that. That's already been here, and it's shipped. Like, so I was a little bit nervous, but when I opened it up, it was that. So I was like, whew, dodged the bullet, But the other thing I did an unboxing for this morning and recorded was for this bad boy.
Yes.
So I was very excited. I know you were saying you had this on recently for your show and tell, but I finally picked her up. I picked her up a couple days ago. I ordered it through Amazon because she was on sale for $15 and change. When you go on Funko, she's still going for $30. Her and the throne. So I'm very excited to have that. Now, again, with the box, I thought it was going to be much bigger, like a hyperspace hero or something, but it's actually not that bad. It's really not that. I'm kind of surprised you couldn't almost fit it in a normal size pop box, but again, for the price is right. I'm like Ricky and Will and some of those guys, they love good deals. Well, when you see a deluxe pop for $15, and it's the price of a standard pop, you gotta just take my money on that,
Absolutely. And
So
that was that pop definitely resonates with me, because I remember 2 summers ago when we were getting like leaks of the Mandalorian season 3, there really wasn't much talked about it. They keep Mandalorian so low key, especially after season 2 when we got to see Luke return. And a lot of the drawings showed Plo Koon holding Grogu. So we were like, what's this about? But yeah, the first leaked image that I saw of Mando season 3 was Bo-Katan on the throne, just kind of hunched over, like looking up, and it looked real grungy and gritty. And I'm like, ooh, I love this. This is
Nice.
amazing. But yeah, like I said earlier, my wife surprised me with that one for my birthday, alongside of the Mandalorian holding the blaster and the dark saber. So
Nice.
I got
Got
those
that one.
two. Yes, got those two bangers for my birthday. So I definitely couldn't complain. But yeah, the Bo-Katan, that's probably top 5 in my collection.
Yeah.
And I say that just so easy because it's perfect. But I
So
was
your
telling
birthday was somewhat recent, huh, Brandon?
January 1st. Yep.
Okay. All right. Within the year. All right. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Got
I
a
just got my birthday just passed as well, on in early March. So they asked, "What do you want for your birthday?" I said, "What every collector dreams of: more space. I want shelves. I want more bookcases." And actually, this is kind of funny. I bought my 4 new bookcases off Facebook Marketplace, and
nice.
I to said location. And when I got there, I didn't even realize it said, "Oh, this person's in the Star Wars collectors group like you." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." So the person comes out, and I ask, "Are you so?" Yep. And my friends who's with me helping move says, "The Star Wars T-shirt would have been the dead giveaway." And they were walking to the elevator. I'm like, "I look really familiar." I said, "You don't happen to be the guy during the Hasbro live streams?" He's like, "Yep, that's me." So we're sitting there riding the elevator, and my head's like, spinning, like, "Oh my god!" And so we're sitting there, and I'm trying to act cool and casual. It's like, "Oh, I used to work at Cake Mix Studio and for Hasbro." And he's like, "Oh man, well, what do you do?" He's, "Oh, well, I used to do the lead design for TVC Star Wars, and I'm kind of moved to Black Series." I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like
Damn.
inside, I'm trying to be calm because I'm like, "This guy, we could talk for hours," But it
That's
was
awesome.
really cool. So I know that his space for collection is not going to waste. It's actually going to still be used to collect Star Wars. So
Nice.
I put it into the other half of my space down here that I've kind of reclaimed. It used to be the playroom for the kids when we moved. And they were tiny, and they don't even want to hang out down here. I put the Xbox and the 50-inch TV. Still, they didn't want to come. So I turned it into my collection room / YouTube photo studio, and the other part is going to be my TV room. And collection room
Nice.
is expanding. So if they don't want to use it, I'm taking it back. It's mine.
Yeah. Like they say, if you build it, they will come. And it seemed like your kids didn't want to mess around in that area. So, hey, more room for you.
Exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, we got a nice little 2-bedroom right now, but we are looking to upgrade in space because we do have a kid on the way. So
Nice.
the room I'm in right now would have to be the baby's room, and you almost can't even walk in here because there's just a lot of shit in here. Right above the camera, there's my wife's collection of Lego, and that is just enough already. So every wall is covered in here. So this would be like a rapper or like a recording artist's dream. There would be no muffle in the studio because there's
Nice.
not much white. Only white you really see is just above some of the spaces and between the bookshelves. So yeah,
That's
it's
awesome. See, my
time to
wife likes
move up.
the fact that I have this now, Brandon, because for her, I can get all my Star Wars stuff in one place, so it's not in the living room, in this portion in the study, in the library. All the areas. It's all kind of getting condensed. So we're laughing about that. She's like, "Oh, you're gonna take your 3-foot tauntaun and bring that down there too?" I said, "Yeah, it's coming down. It's going down there." But it still is in our little and I say library. We have a little threshold from the front door that we don't use to the living room, which I guess when the house was originally built, it was built slightly for different use, and that was the main door.
Mm,
And when that got built, the previous owners had built it was just a bookshelf room. So when you first come in, you would walk through what we call the library. And so half
nice.
of it was Funko Pop, and I have the giant um, the 12-inch version of the Tauntaun with Han Solo on it, and that had been sitting up there for a while. So that has finally moved downstairs into those new shelves I recently picked up, and
Nice.
it more and more. So even behind me in my collection has been changing because I've been taking stuff off of here to then move to the other to spread out the collection. I have more empty boxes than you can shake a stick at, that I need to condense and just get one giant box to put all those boxes in, because I do save the boxes to put stuff in to protect them and stuff like that. But I want to be able to see these things and pull them out. Like I've had the Darth Vader in the meditation chamber for years, sitting in a box. I think that was one of the very, very, very first images I started tooling around with and photographing, and it came out okay then. But I think I kind of grew to find a style photographically for this kind of body of work that I'm doing with the Star Wars Funko. And so it didn't impress me, it was one of the very first things, but it had been put right back in the box and sat there for 3 years, 4 years. So being able to pull it out of the box and put it onto a shelf and actually see it in all its glory. Again, it's one of those things that I know a lot of people like to collect their pops and keep them in the box, but you can't appreciate some of the details that go into the characters and the poses and stuff when they're just in the box. So I'm not saying throw your boxes out and destroy them. I used to do that, and I'm sure the resale value, if I need it, for a lot of them is gone because their boxes are long gone, but
Yeah.
I'm never going to resell them. They're for mine to collect, and I like them and I use them for photos. So it's just been nice just to spread them out, free them from their boxes, be able to look at them. Like a friend came today to pick me up. We're going to head over to the Easter party, and he came down and he's like, I haven't seen any of these. And he was talking about my Red Saber series. Oh, they were just in boxes, stacked up. And he goes, oh, and you have all these Hoth ones? Oh, that was the Echo Base series. Yeah, those are all in box. So he's been a friend for years and hasn't seen these because they've just been in boxes. So it's been nice to get the collection to spread out,
Yes.
a little bit more. And as I slowly kind of take over the basement takeover now, it's kind of nice because now I can kind of plan, okay, I want to do this and that, trying to also plan for the expectation of the Ghost coming, because I did back the Ghost.
Nice.
And I have the Razor Crest already. So, okay, where am I going to place those now? Now that I've got all this, I've got a central place. Where am I going to place it? How am I going to display it? So I'm looking at actually customizing an old Sony Vio or Wega TV stand. And I might convert that where the top, I might kind of take some 3D foam, cut it, and make a diorama of a desert landscape there. And this way I could put something on the top, and then underneath, remove the shelf. I'll have the glass doors, get that all cleaned up, kids stickers off of it. And I might make that to like a base of something, whether it's an Imperial or Rebel base, but make it look like it's a hanger. So I can, okay, I want to put the Ghost on the top and then put the Razor Crest in here. So friend and I are trying to figure that one out. That might take a lot of thought and kit bashing and some work. That's probably going to be a summertime project, but hopefully I'll have it done before I get the Ghost. It'll be I'll have somewhere to put it when I finally get it.
Yeah, that's badass, dude. I love, sometimes the process of building something for your collection. It's amazing. Like I built this kind of Funko like wooden frame thing here, and I copied the idea off someone on I think it was Pinterest actually, but I my measurements were off by like 2 centimeters, and when you're measuring stuff out, that's a huge difference. So instead of fitting 8 or 16 across in the like 2x8, I have some room on each side now, so it's kind of just off a little bit. But once I get more equipment, I'll definitely build another shelf and have that one more precise. But I'm not
you building shelves. That's a do-it-yourself project. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was my first one, so I didn't beat myself up too hard on it. But when I was measuring it out, like I had some empty boxes, so that's what I used for the measurement or the height to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm the same way. If it is a pop moment or pop ride, anything like that, like the meditation chamber, Bo-Katan on the throne, Jabba and Salacious Crumb, like for me, those are coming right out the box. Like no ifs, ands, or buts
I
about
even
it.
took my Jabba and put them out on display. I did like a whole kind of Jabba theme because I did the skiff barge collection of pops and stuff like that, and wanted to show them off. And so now I'm kind of okay. We're done with Return of the Jedi, but I really enjoy looking at them. I honestly think Funko nailed it on those pops. Really love the detailing.
I agree.
You can really see a difference in the sculpt, especially with that series moving forward. It's very evident. So I was very excited to show those off, but I kind of want to set up a spot with those over there in the other room, and maybe kind of take out the Rancor, Luke, and Ula, and kind of do like a scene where maybe one shelf is, Jabba in his throne room, and then underneath I could put on another shelf the Rancor pit or something. I don't know.
That'd be tight.
But I want to make room, because being the 25th anniversary of Phantom Menace, that's a big deal. So one of the things I did do is I fetched out my 3 banks, Maul, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan. Found those, clean those out. I did have to clean out the battery. There's some residue, so hopefully it didn't ruin them, because they've been sitting for so long, dusty and everything, cobwebs, spiders on them. So I had to get that cleaned up, but excited to have them, and want to start preparing an area, because in my opinion, I think we are waiting for Funko to have an announcement of some new Phantom Menace pops for the anniversary. If they do not, I would think they'd be missing out on a large opportunity here.
Oh yeah.
And it's hit or miss. But to me, I know we're having the NFTs kind of go Tuesday the 26th or something. I might kind of try my luck at a few. I'm not a big fan of the NFT stuff, but I might try my luck to see. If I don't really land anything that's going to get me, I'm kind of probably all out. Like I'll buy them if I can get them from someone that's redeeming them and selling them. I might do that, or I might just say, yeah, I missed out on that. I don't know. I like the NFT pops. They do look pretty cool. But I'm not gonna go broke just to buy packs of cards that I can stare at on the screen. I'd rather have something physical, something that I can photograph.
Absolutely.
That's just me.
And see, that's my thing too, is it's like we have these phones now. If I see an NFT, basically I'll just screenshot it and now I have it. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know, it's kind of weird to me, because like Phantom Menace, I do know that there's like a leaked imagery, and
Scarlet Joker had some stuff that we talked about on the Popcast, and I haven't seen it come to fruition, but I have a feeling it's going to. And like we were talking about, we got Bo here on her throne. One of those rumors was having a Queen Amidala on her throne.
That would be
so I've already reached out to a guy that does like Star Wars cardboard backgrounds, and I saw he had a Naboo throne room, and so I shot him a message. You still have this? And if this one, I think you said you're discontinued. Wouldn't mind picking up the Death Star Carter one too. So I got to check later, see if he messaged back. But I'd rather order that now and hope that we're going to get that, or eventually I'll just have to get the original blue box Queen Amidala and shoot that, because that's one of my personal grails that I have wanted to get. I just didn't want to throw down that kind of money,
right.
$300 right now on a single pop. So if I was going to throw $300, even though I won an Amidala, I won a Captain Rex from the celebration or con a couple years back, I'd rather have the one movie moment that I missed when I did Smuggler's Bounty, because my subscription, I started after the first one and ended before the last one. So I missed the Mustafar, Anakin, and Obi-Wan pop movie moment. So if I was going to take $300 of hard-earned cash, I'd throw it towards that as opposed to a single pop.
Nice.
So that's why I haven't kind of gone after Amidala. So I am very excited to see if any of these rumors come to fruition, and it'd be hard to miss. I mean, the fact that Star Wars and Disney is getting behind this 25th anniversary with the re-release in the theaters, I can't see them not doing a Funko Pop series, a wave. So
they should.
I'm hoping they do. And if I get my little cardboard background for the throne room, that's going to be happening. That's an image that in my head I've been wanting to capture for a while. If I have to find that as a digital background, which I've kind of already have a digital background for it in case that I did a makeshift. I took an image and created an image for Andrea from Padawan Chronicles for one of her Padme things or whatnot. And I created a little makeshift image with her of Queen Amidala in the throne room. And after doing that and making an image that out of nothing, just source imagery, I was like, yeah, this is an image I need to have. I need to capture this. So yeah, I'm like you. I'm hoping, and I think they will. It would be a very, very big opportunity miss. So
Yeah, I agree.
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. But to end the show and tell aspect of the show, I'm going to show my first ever Star Wars pop. And my wife got me this for our first Christmas together about 3 years ago. And that is the Boba Fett
Nice.
462. Let me move my mic out the way. This one holds a special place for me because obviously it being the first one that I got, it is also the first time we see Boba Fett on screen again since Return of the Jedi, where him with
Yeah,
his Tuscan skirt on, and you get to see the helmet and the armor back on. So yeah, this one I even have it in a pop case too because this
nice.
is my first one, and this you
Very
can find on
nice.
Amazon for like $4. But
Yeah,
to me, this is a personal grail, just with the significance from it. So yep, this is
that's
one of
awesome.
my
That is awesome. Because I have a segment, and we've talked about having you on movies that inspire the pop. So a lot of times I do that because is there something in that collector's collection, and especially since I basically do Star Wars Funko, is there a pop in that collection that brings you back and harkens an emotion or brings you back to that moment of when you're in the theater, you're on the couch, or whatever it was when you saw this moment? Does that
right.
pop inspire or still bring you to that moment again? And it's always funny, like great example that pop. Why? Because Boba Fett came back, and it was him kind of with the Tuscan, but with his armor over it. So yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that was I thought when we got to see him come back and just be badass, that was awesome.
It
That
was
scene in
so good.
that episode that he had in the Mandalorian season 2 was just awesome, awesome.
Yes. Yes, I agree. Did you want to go ahead and throw your slideshow up?
Sure. So I'll give people a little bit about what I do. So on my channel, it's Poptography, and if you go to any of the social media outlets, um, I did Poptography YT again, just putting more emphasis on the YouTube channel. And I started out under toy photographer, toy photo GFR, kind of like you do license plate. And I think a lot of people are having a hard time finding me and stuff like that. So Chris and I brainstormed and came up with a rebrand. So that's why you'll see some of the images have my old watermark logo on it and stuff like that in the slideshow. But mainly what I do is just Star Wars Funko Pop. I take all those things I learned in commercial photography and tried to apply it to do something that almost anyone can duplicate. So a lot of my videos where I do the image, I actually go behind the scenes in the longer form of that, where I explain how I captured the image and I break down the lighting that I used, how I set it up. And to make it even simpler, I don't even bring out any of my actual cameras. I do it all on my iPhone. And the reason I did that was to one, challenge myself. There's no f stops and shutter speeds and really dialing down to control your lighting and subject. So I really want to force myself to challenge. Can I light something so well that I can nail it in an iPhone? And I've, you know, as I started, I kind of found my way, and I found uh, kind of like a recipe almost that I find
Yeah.
allows me to capture these images, and they're kind of like individual portraits. So this will give you an idea of kind of what I do with my images.
Yeah, like this here is so dope because I remember seeing some of your videos show up in my reels even before we started following each other. And I was like, what the hell? Because I know that there's a Lego guy I follow and he does scenes and stuff and will recreate it in Lego and like he'll build the entire room, entire set. But like these right here, you'd think that this is almost AI because that's how crisp and real it looks. But yeah, like the entire way, I love how you bring Hondo, that's so badass. Just the way you have the physical pop and you think the background is real as well. Like you would
Well,
think, people
yeah,
for
some of those
Funko made
backdrops
these.
like this, that's from Galaxy's Edge.
Paula.
So while I
Yeah.
was, this is Galaxy's Edge. Like that's when you're
Gotcha.
leaving the Millennium Falcon ride, Galaxy's Edge. So when I was on vacation, I was actually photographing a lot, knowing that these are ideas that I wanted to do.
Oh, dude. Hey, that right there, Boba Fett with Han Solo. I will pay you whatever you need. I need that in a physical copy. God damn.
We'll talk. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, we need to do something here. Look, not
This one I had a lot of fun doing.
that one's awesome. I have that pop, and that one's perfect.
My custom one I did because we waited forever to get a real Vader from that. So I did that,
like
and a
you
year
put the
later we
blue on
finally
there,
got
too.
it. But what I enjoy is being able to take these characters and put them into environments that kind of look like they're there. Like this one here is
Right.
using a 3D rendering of a background. So literally I can move that, and I literally moved it to get those twin suns exactly where I wanted them in the shot. Others, this is another one, 3D rendering, and I wanted to get that Carter just the right way. This is literally a stopped frame on Star Wars Rebels when Sabine was blowing up the TIE fighters in the hangar, in the yard. So I stopped that. This is, out on location at the beach. Uh, Others are like digital background, what I call the virtual volume. So it's just always a mixture of different things to bring that story or that portrait of that character to life.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's crazy, dude. Like I said earlier, like you would think like Funko has someone making these, like this is insane that you have the talents to make these happen, but also it's all off of iPhone, man. You don't need to have a insane 13 to $2,400 camera to get these shots right.
No, and that was the big challenge to me because I have a Hasselblad, I have Canons, I've got you name it, I've got it. Camera equipment, I've got tons of. But I wanted to really challenge myself doing something where I'm not using strobes, something different. And a lot of people asked originally, like, why did you choose Funko? Why aren't you shooting Black Series or Vintage Collection? And for those that didn't know, well, I did that as my day job at one point, So back in 2015, I was working for Mr. Potato Head doing things like that. I had a contract and shooting stuff like that. Now, did I shoot a lot of Star Wars? I didn't get to shoot a lot, but I was there for like Darth Maul and Boba Fett, first Black Series coming out. When they started doing the Ewoks and the catapults, fun things like that. But I was basically shooting a lot of Iron Man 3 stuff. And I think one of the G.I. Joe movies had come out. So with like Channing Tatum or whatnot. So, seeing him in a G.I. Joe figure is kind of interesting, things like that. But so for me, it was more like I got into Funko because on a whim, I think my mom and my wife were asking, well, what did you want? And I saw the Smuggler's Bounty. And I said, I don't know, something like this. I don't have any tchotchke stuff around my desk. So it literally started with something as weird as that. And I got the Tauntaun with Han Solo on it. And I just thought that was awesome. And then went in and kind of just started collecting, and other people, when they would travel for work or whatnot, would at the Walgreens and, hey, didn't see this on your shelves. I didn't know if you had this. And so the collection kind of started with that, and it's just grown. And I had all this stuff, and I figured, well, what better way to share my passion for photography and Star Wars and Funko by kind of combining them all together. So that's how I came up with Poptography.
Nice. Yeah, man. I always love the hear how people kind of, start their channels and start, the entire reason why all of this has brought us together, like this is your thing, with the pops and
I
like
started doing this right, kind of coming out of COVID, when we were all kind of quarantined and you didn't know what to do. I mean, people weren't making new content, like, television or, studio wise. I think a lot of people went on to YouTube.
Mhm.
I saw a lot of other photographers, toy photographers like Jared at Sir Dork and other guys, Matt Ma Films. Amusing King, him doing his toy photography, and it really inspired me to kind of go out there and let's kind of share that. Like, I always felt that I didn't share that with enough people, like my passion for photography and toy collecting and stuff like that. And this is a great way to kind of marry them together and just have fun. Oh, this is fun. It's one of my new images coming out. Playing with the Young Jedi Adventures, because I thought those figures, those little vinyl figures look like someone reached into your TV set, pulled the animated character out, and set it on your desk.
Yep.
And I saw those, and I was like, for $10, like, oh, I'll pick these up for $10. They're on sale Target, and I'll make something with it. So that that sometimes you see something like that, it just inspires you. Like, I like the bounty collectibles, those little vinyls. They're mainly Grogu, very cutesy. But they came out with so many cute little poses and this and that. And what got me to get them was the Loth Cat. I had to get the Loth Cat. I said, that would be perfect to scale to put with my Funko Pops for photos. So there's a Ahsoka I had shot, and I had to bring it back. So I literally grabbed a virtual volume image, my background. Someone did a 3D rendering of what Ezra's room, that's now Sabine's room, in the tower on Lufal looked like. So I said, oh, that's great. So I got that image, looked at that, bought out the pops, put the Loth Cat in there, and I tried to recreate that scene when Ahsoka went back to Sabine's to kind of check what was going on. And I kind of recreated that out of Funko with that, and it was just kind of fun. Again, sometimes it could be just the pop itself. It could be a conversation with somebody else. A lot of times, some of the images have come from suggestions from subscribers and followers. Hey, have you ever thought about doing it? Oh, I'd like to see this. Do you have this in your collection? So sometimes that inspires me. It could be something from the television series, like the season finale of season 2 of Mandalorian when Luke came in. Well, come on. I had to get the pop, right? You had to get the pop. But then not only you get the pop, I had to create an image. Like, that was just awesome. So, like, within moments, I was doing that. In Ahsoka, when we had, was it episode 5, Ahsoka and Anakin together?
Yeah.
I had to take my, my Darth Vader version of Anakin with Sith eyes, he's in a protector. This is one of my grails. I took him and photoshopped him and put Kanan as a stand-in so I can get normal eyes.
Right. Yeah. I noticed that.
Redid that image, so I had an image of Anakin and Ahsoka together from that. So again, the inspiration can come from a number of things, but I usually try to do one figure, one pop, not usually too many, because I want to tell the story of that character in that moment, as opposed to telling a bigger tale and all that. I just like doing the little individual portraits, and it seems to really work well, and I kind of like it. So that's kind of where I kind of found my little groove.
And yeah, and that's awesome because me personally, I think some of those images that you had on there, it's just insane because it seems like it's the show you're watching or the movie you're watching, but it's just animated basically, and it's like in its toy version. So all of the backgrounds are translated well, and plus seeing you show the behind the scenes of getting the photo itself taken, you have like the screen in the background, and then it shows the different lights and the lighting that you use at different angles, and then how you angle the pop itself, and like how perfect it has to sit for you to get that right shot. And I think
it's certain ones I've been
everything
taking, like
possible.
my playing cards, and stick them on an angle just to cheat. And again, the little cheat is because I can get the character coming a little more forward, right? And that, like the Thrawn one I did that with, for example.
Yes.
Because I wanted to get him forward where his face came towards you, light it so that you can get all, and especially in the newer version and the original version, not the one with him holding the blaster, he's got a lot of detail in the face sculpt that the other one doesn't have. It's more flat.
Yeah.
So I really like that, and be able to light that and pull those details out and make him, because he's not doing anything. He's got his arms crossed, he's staring. But how do you make him menacing? Well, if you cheat him a little bit, and that little bit of cheat brings him more in focus. And even though to the viewer they're not noticing it, by the time you get down to his belt or his rank, it's slightly out of focus because there's just enough of that depth of field that it starts to play with that. Then you add your virtual volume of I think in that one it was like a hanger. Like I found a digital image of a hanger inside the Star Destroyer, so I used that, and it just you light it to kind of look like it's in that environment, and voila, So it's a lot of fun, a lot of fun. Thank you. I really enjoy being able to talk about that and explain it, and it's fun when people actually see it and they get inspired. So thanks, man.
Yeah, of course, dude. I've always loved the content you push, especially in that because I'm a Star Wars Funko guy. There's lots of us, and to see that you're the one making these images come to life and really taking a toy that is in a cardboard box made of plastic and making it in a million times better than what you see with the eye. So I think that is really
Yeah,
awesome.
the ultimate goal one day would love to have Funko work with Funko to do, like get images for their ads or social media campaigns. Love to be able to do something
That
like
would
that.
be
So
insane.
Funko, if you're out there and you're listening and you're interested, please look me up, man. Let's do something. Let's collab. Let's
Yeah,
collaborate.
let's work. It'll benefit everybody and everyone who's a fan of it. But
Exactly.
with all of the beautiful artwork that we've seen from Patrick, make sure you go follow him. But let's go ahead and dive into something that our friend Eli has DM me. He sends me a lot of edits from like Darth Vader and just different edits within the Star Wars universe and just how cool Star Wars is. But he went ahead and asked me to tell our next guest, let's have a debate between Anakin Skywalker and Luke Skywalker. So I
All
was like,
right.
this is that's a good topic because a lot of people don't like how Anakin was portrayed in the prequels. And I'm a huge prequel guy, so that kind of sticks me in the heart a little bit. But also Luke Skywalker in the original trilogy, and him in the sequel trilogy in Mandalorian. It's very controversial. A lot of people
Yep.
don't think Luke was portrayed the way he should have, while others think it was just a perfect meeting of how Luke acted in the sequels, which I'm in between. I think I'm pretty indifferent. I think situations outweigh each other. And obviously, the sequel trilogy, it's not George Lucas anymore. And I feel like people just expect it to be George Lucas. And so everyone has their own opinions. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions, which obviously, if you have seen my channel before, you know that I am just a fan of Star Wars and I will take what I can with every single project that we get. I don't see the
More
point.
fans need to be like this. It's the celebration of the fandom menace, but let's get rid of the fandom menace as we move forward in this next saga, because it does no good. It's only harming what good content could come out, because the more that complain and again, I grew up seeing the first ones when I was 5 or 6, 77 in the theater. So yeah, I'm the OG original trilogy, had it for 30 some years, and that was it. So any new content, good or bad, is new content. It's exciting. Will I like all of it? Maybe, maybe not, but I enjoy it just as much as I watch the originals. And I'm curious what people are panning on Anakin in the prequels about. Because I think, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, they probably thought he was a little whiny. Well, let's go back. Let's go back to 77 and New Hope. The whiniest character is your hero, Luke. And I didn't notice it then, but as I got older and I watched it, I was like, the whole, I want to hang out with my friends at Tashi's. Like, come on, he was whiny. Why? Oh, I don't want to go. That's too much. It's like whiny. And then we get him there, right? And then we get him on his journey, and then that kind of stops, which is fine. But to go back and watch it as you mature, and you're like, God, Luke was a whiny bitch for a little bit, like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's anything in every movie. Like, I know I don't 100% enjoy the sequels. So I look at it like the last one, I almost feel as a train wreck. So I take just a few parts of it that I enjoy. But Last Jedi, there are things that I like about it. I loved Andy Serkis's performance as Snoke.
Mm,
Loved his performance.
yeah, that was
That
good.
that was solid. So you can't discount the whole thing when you have these great performances and these great scenes like that Praetorian Guard with Rey and Kylo Ren fighting him. That was awesome. That
Dude.
was a great lightsaber battle. Was it the best? It could be up there, but it's probably not the best, but it was up there. Um, do I agree with Mary Poppins, flying through space because all of a sudden we discover she had the Force? No, not at all. Like that's garbage. That would hit the editing floor in my edit.
Yeah.
Um, there's certain things that the other thing, and I've complained about, and you might agree, and I think you will, is from a marketing standpoint, look at the franchise and look at 3 films you're releasing. And there's no way you kill off the main hero of your entire saga until the third and final installment. That's when you let him go. And the torch is finally passed on to the next generation and you let him go. But
Yeah.
to kill him off in the second of the trilogy, and hoping you're going to have Carrie Fisher, and unfortunately, life happens and she passes in real life, so we don't get the end. And you've already killed off Han in the first of those sequel trilogies. So, like, how you missed an opportunity, one, to get all 3 together at one time again, which the fans would have gone nuts. And because that never happened, I think that you started breaking the fandom apart with that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you make a decision where you kill off the main hero of the entire saga before you get to the third one. That's just bad marketing. That's not even bad filmmaking. That's bad marketing. Like, that should have been a no-go until you get to the third one. You got to get asses in the seats, sell tickets, and all that. And and again, from the business standpoint, you shouldn't have made that decision, let alone from the filming standpoint. So, and I love some of Ryan Johnson's other stuff, like Looper and other, like Knives Out, all great.
Yeah.
And I don't mind Last Jedi. I there's parts of it. I don't feel my Luke that I last left with. Again, a lot of people left with Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi. And that, unless you read Expanded Universe or anything else, that's what you left with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for younger generations, even the prequel generations, they still looked at Luke that way because we hadn't had any other thing to rebuke that, right? So
Right.
to then go from that to where he's a curmudgeon and just not wanting to do anything and disconnected, that's not the Luke that I think a lot of the generation grew up with. I don't think even the actor that has portrayed this character ever would have portrayed it like that or thought that he'd end up like that. And I think you get that kind of in a lot of his Mark Hamill's interviews, either leading up where he was very reluctant to say much, and then afterward we got the spilled the tea. So, I don't know where people, I'm curious in this debate where people are at, because I feel that both are kind of whiny, but it also has that same rhyme and meter that
Yeah.
he
And
always talks about.
it's kind
So
of,
it's fitting that they both are at certain points. So I'm curious.
yeah. And it's like you kind of think of, how whiny or how arrogant Luke was at the beginning. I mean, this kid never flown anything in gravity or outside of gravity, and he's the best star pilot in the galaxy already. So, like there's some points that I feel like people nitpick with the sequels or the prequels, but it's always been happening. Like there's a lot
Yeah.
of people who think George Lucas isn't the greatest writer. He just had everything he needed at the time to make a phenomenal film. And I mean, you can even listen to George Lucas interviews, and he didn't think it would be anything, with Star Wars, and it's just how everything blows up. Some people like things, some don't. That's this entire, debate, quote unquote, is what you like and how you see it, because we're all different. If we were all the same, we would just like everything,
Yeah.
so there would be no weight to anything. But with Anakin, I feel like you look at Luke and you're like, yeah, he's Anakin's son. That's his father, and I feel like that dynamic definitely shows, there's Anakin as a kid, he wants to be this, but he has attachment with his mom. That's all he knows. There's no father. There's a lot of he wants to be a pod racer. His mom doesn't want him to pod race because it's dangerous. But then this magic wizard dude shows up and is like, hey, you have something that we all have, but you just have it a shit ton more than we do. So how about we get you to do this pod race, get us some parts for our ship. And here's this kid. He's 9 years old. he's getting adopted by the Jedi to, fight in a war in the near future that we see with the Clone Wars. But as a kid, he doesn't know that. And then
Mm-hmm.
as he comes up in the Jedi Order, he's whiny, he's arrogant, he doesn't completely listen to Obi-Wan, but he knows he should. But when you really look at all these things and it trickles down, Anakin was created by the Force. And so, I mean, we all see how he ends, just like the background picture here in the middle. It's part of the story. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like for me, there are different sides to Anakin Skywalker and there are different sides to Luke Skywalker. But when it comes down, if there's a greater, to me, it's Anakin. He is the leader of, he's the first Skywalker in the, the lineage of the Skywalker saga, obviously other than Shmi. But Anakin and Luke, I feel like the comparison just it can be close at times, but with Anakin becoming Darth Vader, I think that is one of the strongest beings ever in Star Wars. And but Luke
I
is right
agree.
there.
I
Luke
agree.
is right there. They
I,
do have
I
different times to where they can show their skills, show their talents, and just the natural part of the Force that they carry. But yeah, I'm more Team Anakin if that kind of answers the debate. But I mean, like I said, Luke is right there.
yeah, I don't know which one I would pick one over the other either. I mean, I look at Anakin and I'm a Darth Vader fan. So if I'm a Darth Vader fan, I'm right. I'm automatically sign me up for Anakin, right? So for me, again, you got I the films I watched shot you right into the middle of the whole saga, right? 3, 4, and 5, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6. So you kind of jump right into that. So I've always loved Vader. So now the prequels are coming out. Oh, wait a second. I'm going to learn about Vader. Okay. So start out with Jake Lloyd as the kid. And I thought the kid did a good job. He was given a role where he's playing a kid, and we're not going to see him being all awesome and lights. Okay, great. And it was a slow build for as people call it, the slow burn, right? That
Yep.
first movie, slow burn. But I thought the pod racing scenes were phenomenal. I think that kind of added to it. I love that. I thought the Duel of Fates, that was one of the best lightsaber scenes. If not the best, it's one of the top 2 or 3. It's hands down, it's up there. And again, I'm coming back from watching A New Hope, right? So, and Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So when I first saw those, it's different.
Yes, it
And,
is.
and different in the way that I had no knowledge of prequel stuff. There was no story towards that. So that was just kind of what you had, and you went with it, and you saw the progression of Luke. So you see him being a farm boy, unexperienced, a profane to the Force, if you will, and then he get him in Empire Strikes Back, where he comes back. He's a little more knowledgeable now. He kind of has an understanding there is something bigger. Does he
Yes.
quite know? No, he's got a ghost speaking to him after getting mauled by a wampa and freezing it almost to death, right? So am I losing consciousness, or is that really there? Then he goes to Dagobah, find Yoda, learns a little bit more, and then leaves and fights Vader, and that was a great scene. And I
Man.
think even from where you see him fighting Obi-Wan to that, he was kind of handing Luke with one hand, like could eat a sandwich if he didn't have a respirator on, like fighting him. And that was kind of neat. Very one, and there's a different style in that fight. But then you get to the next one, and the stakes are higher. You get to Return of Jedi, stakes are higher. Luke is not just fighting for his identity of where he's in the galaxy, because he's kind of like, yeah, I'm going to be a Jedi. I've been training. I'm a great pilot and leader in the Rebel Alliance, but I think he was fighting for more than that. He was fighting for his father's soul and redemption.
Mm-hmm.
He was fighting to bring the Jedi back, to raise that phoenix of the Jedi. Because again, after all these, we've got now it kind of messes with canon, because you thought he was the last, but now this guy's here and this guy's here and Balin and boo to boo to boo, like they're all coming out of the woodwork. Where were they then? So it was weird, right? And I think they need to do a little more in the storytelling of why they were so hidden and stuff like that. And I think you get the hint with Inquisitors being after them and stuff. So I get it. But in those three, it really made it dire that he's the last one. And even Vader, which prompts him for that big epic space opera battle at the end of Jedi. Well, if you won't turn, maybe sister, and like he's fighting. Not now, he realizes it's all on the line. It is
Yep.
all on the line. And I love that. And I thought that really was so well done. And I think what made this story so good of those three films is Lucas really delved into mythology and story and character arc, and did a great job. I mean, let's face it, you have a space opera fantasy, galaxy far, far away, but you got a damsel. But Princess Leia she wasn't a damsel in distress. She was probably the most badass female woman hero character I ever saw growing up, and I kind of respect that. I was like, that's kind of cool because, well, everything else is kind of like Link saving the princess and Zelda, and this was not like that. Like this is like, yeah, she's kind of making fun of the guy who's saving her. I ain't kind of short to be a stormtrooper, or like you're really doing a good job getting us out of here. Give me that blaster. Like she was taking things in her own hands, and we never, I think, as young kids, we never saw that archetype for a character or female.
Right.
So that was, to me, great. And I think for a lot of young ladies, I think that was very inspiring. That's why Star Wars has a great large fandom, male, female, whatever you're into, whatever you are, your interest, there's characters there for you that you can enjoy,
Absolutely.
and there's a plethora of them. I mean, there's so many and they expand so much.
And see,
But back,
that's what kills me when people are like, "Oh, it's so one-sided. There has to be a woman character." Like Disney's so woke, and it's like, hey, take a few steps back. We have always had female characters. If you look at episode 4, 5, 6, realistically, yeah, Luke is the main point, other than Darth Vader. But Darth Vader don't have much screen time in the original trilogy, and people forget that. But who are
because he
they?
just dominates when he's in there, right? He dominates. So you have to use him sparingly,
Yes, absolutely.
honestly.
And it's like, who are they protecting? What is the main goal right now? Is to get Leia away. They just wiped out her home planet, the one that she served for. So now what? She is the leader of the rebellion, which is the entire thing that takes down the Empire. And
Yep.
yes, Luke defeating Darth Vader in the end. Spoiler warning. You That really wasn't the fall of the empire. That was the fall of their king, their pawns. And ultimately, I mean, you could also be like, oh no, Lando destroyed it, like, yeah, but that's how you get, the other supporting characters involved. But it's mainly getting this rebel alliance to go against the empire led by Leia Organa. She's, if you kind of look at it from a point of view, you could see her as the lead character. So
Yeah.
when have we have Depa
Luke being a
Balaba.
supporting character to her, right?
Yeah, yes, of course. And we have characters like Depa Balaba, Shakti, Ayla Secura, like just some of the side character like female Jedi. But I mean, you look at Kit Fisto, Quinlan Voss, Plo Koon, those are all side
Quinlan,
characters
one of
in
your
the
favorites.
yeah, of course. But it's like we've always had, female roles. It's not just because we're
Yeah,
focusing on a
I think
main
some of the
character
comments
Jedi.
that I think some of the comments that the director is getting negatively about the trailer for the Acolyte probably is coming from her comments. It's about, I think it was something, and I know I'm misquoting it. It's something about it's about time. The Star Wars is told from a female's perspective, and I'm like, not something you should say because
Yeah.
and stop trying to jump on a soapbox and make it fit for what's happening currently because we have Ray, right? She's been newly introduced, probably got controversial about stupid stuff, whatever. But we have Ray. You have Jyn Erso from Rogue One. She was the entire story, in my opinion. It wasn't Andor, wasn't K2SO, it was her.
Hmm.
And you have Leia from day one. Like, what are you like? That is a great perspective. And now, what I feel bad for when you look at all that, when you have a character like Finn running around screaming Rey the whole time and being useless in the sense that they never took that character and did anything like that. The only character development we saw was in Force Awakens. After
Yes.
that, he was garbage. He was filler.
That
He
is
was,
what you get when you have multiple directors and writers trying to move a story left and right. That's what the sequels
but
was.
that's no, in my opinion, there's no excuse for it. You have Pablo
Absolutely.
Hidalgo and all these people get paid buku cash to be story, keep the story consistency, right? That's their whole fucking purpose. Pardon my French, but that's the whole purpose. They get it, they're making over $100,000, right? Because
Yeah.
of that. How many other fans could keep that shit straight and be like, no, that doesn't happen here. This
Right.
is how it goes. You got to keep and I understand the idea of legends and stuff like that. And I kind of like that. How Lucas and Filoni have explained, well, we don't need to change it. Those are stories. Because when you see in The Last Jedi, the kids playing with their figures at the end, and Luke Skywalker, harkens back to Return of the Jedi with 3PO telling the story to the Ewoks, right? You get that heartbeat again there, but now you're getting it with Luke Skywalker and this tall tale, and he came out and he's against the First Order, and they shot all these cannons at him, and he was still alive, So I like the idea of leaving legends and those other stories alone. Let them be their own thing, because it's kind of like tribesmen sitting down telling the younger kids their tales to pass on to their next generations. It's very similar to that. So I love that. Like, someone's story could be outlandish, but that's how it was told to them.
Right.
And it could be real. It could be real, could be not. Rey pulled a ship out of the sky. Okay. I've never seen anyone do that. You know what I mean? Like, so all these things are great in that realm of being able to do that. Now, Anakin versus Luke in a debate, it's hard to say, because Anakin is very similar to Luke in a lot of ways. Kind of introduced, again, found, not kind of understanding that he had a power. He just had a gift that he didn't know about. Kind of like Luke, a good pilot, doesn't know where he gets it from. Definitely not his uncle. So, right, definitely not Owen. Peru's taking him out cruising and giving him driving lessons on these things, T-15 or whatever. So I'm always curious. I think that it has a lot of symmetry to show. And I think the characters each grow in their own way, but have those same ties that you can see the heartbeats and those kind of rhyming poetry kind of pieces to the characters play out. And that's something Lucas always says many times in his behind the scenes. So it does fit. But I would challenge people, and I'm going to challenge you, Brandon.
Okay.
When you have your child, I want you to rewatch this whole saga again and tell me if you don't see it with different eyes. Because
dude,
when I saw Return of the Jedi and I got Ewoks, I was flipping tables. I wanted Wookiees. But as I got older, I saw behind the scenes, and I think Lucas was adopting his children then, that you saw in the prequels, Jet, and I can't remember the daughter's name, but he was in kind of adopting them, and yeah, maybe that's it, and spending the time with them. So I think becoming more of a father figure, you have different eyes and different vision. So you switch Wookiees to Ewoks. It wasn't just a marketing thing. Like, I think a lot of people thought it was just that. I'm sure that there was some truth to that, because it has a lot more kid play. But again, these movies are made not just for adults, but they're also made for kids. It's made for a family. Right. Star Wars is to be enjoyed as a family, and shared with the future generations. And that's why I like how they did the jump from the original to the sequel, where it's like, Finn and Rey are talking to Han Solo, like, oh, it's real. Oh, it's all real. And Han Solo, the guy who didn't believe in, hokey religions and magic, never guided his destiny. Well, here we are 35 years later. So I thought that even the way they kind of worked that into it was great, because again, you're getting Star Wars told from a different perspective. And I think as you grow through the series, the saga is meant to be grown with, right. Not just like, you guys, a younger generation, grew up with the prequels. I grew up with the original trilogy. doesn't discount what we like or what's good and bad in Star Wars. It's more Star Wars. It's more of the tale. We now went backwards in time to kind of lead up to how the Empire became. Loved all that. But I also think there's different things that you understand. When you were a kid, you had Jar Jar and you
Yeah.
enjoyed him because he was Jar Jar. He was comical. And I get that as an adult. As an adult, I didn't care for Jar Jar because I knew that was his thing. What I
Right.
appreciated was how he was filmed, the technology that went behind. So I looked at him differently because of all those things. I loved all that from the technical side because being a photographer and all that kind of stuff, I was eating it up. Like, how did they pull that off? How did the actor do this? How do you act like that if he's totally 3D rendered and digital? I was all on board for that. Did I
Yeah.
care for the character's performance? No, he did a great job. But again, I knew he was meant for the kids. He was meant for the kids. He was like Ewoks meant for Return of the Jedi for the kids.
Yep.
So you will watch Star Wars now when you have a child, it's going to be very different because Anakin leaving his mother is going to have hit differently now than it would when you were first watching the prequels.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Okay. And decisions that are made in Star Wars from different characters will have more weight depending where you are, I think, in your life, because you are old enough to reflect upon it, to understand a deeper meaning. When you're a kid, it's all lightsabers and blasters. You're like, yeah, this is awesome. As you get older, there's more of that like story to it. Like I remember when I saw the first Star Wars, it was awesome. But when I saw Empire and I got to see the Yoda and the teachings, there's something there that sparked and was like, this is a lot deeper than just lightsabers and blasters, and that as a kid, I saw that. And so you get to the next one and it definitely pulled all those pieces together. And again, I got older, so I got to mature with it and I have a better understanding, better let soak it in. And I think as you got older, watching those same three, you could pull out so many different things. Like I know I was on the Grand Lodge of New York's Masonic Talk. They had a podcast talking about Star Wars and Freemasonry. And
Nice.
it sounds really weird, but to those that have gone through the degree work, can look at those first three movies and see Luke being an entered apprentice, being a fellow craft, and being a master. You
Right.
get to see all three of those progressions. And there's a lot of similarities. And it's interesting. Well, why? Because they're built with great archetypes and great myths and stories based on tales that have been proven for hundreds of years as good legacies. And I think Lucas did his homework to make us care about, because come on, Dune's going to be a great movie. I can't wait to see Dune Part 2. But do you feel that way about any of those characters that you do Star Wars?
No.
No. Star Trek, it's a classic. We love Kirk, we love Spock, McCoy, Bones. But do you feel for them like you do Star Wars characters?
No.
No. So why is that, right? Those are great space adventures and sci-fi movies, but they didn't have the mythos behind it. And I think those things are to the core of what Star Wars is. And that's why I say it's very family.
Yep.
You watch it, there's nothing more, and you're going to do the same thing than having your little toddler on your lap, bouncing them on your knee, and watching Darth Vader enter the Tantive 4 in that first scene in A New Hope, and watch the kid go, oh, and they might even know, Darth Vader. You're going to be like, yes, young Padawan. You're going to love
Yes.
it, right? I'm telling you.
I know, man. It's crazy.
You're going to love it because you're going to relive Star Wars through their
them
as
right.
well. My kids, unfortunately, they don't love Star Wars like me. Star Wars is something they have to deal with because of their father.
That's what I'm thinking too. If they don't like it, they're gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah, they entertain me. Oh, we'll go see the movie. They'll go see the movies, but they're not like, I need to see the second and third and fourth time in the theater. Like they'll go to the first one and I don't know. Or they'll say, Dad's probably going to go see it opening it. We'll go another night when he sees it again, kind of thing. We'll go to see it when you see it for your third time or something. But it's funny. And I think everyone that is quick to criticize the characters, the movies. Where are you in your life? And kind of put it in that perspective. And I think it really changes how we look at any of the sequels, the prequels, the original. And when you look at all of them put together, you can kind of make that decision for yourself. But I honestly think as you grow with Star Wars, so will some of your thoughts on things change, your viewpoints. You might understand more than you did at certain point. You will definitely, right? If you're young and you watch the prequels, and now you're older and you're rewatching, there's going to be some differences. I know when they first came out, they were kind of a lot of the OG fans weren't huge fans. Did I think some of it was a little overly digital? Yes, but I love the technology, so I can't go on. I love that stuff. Was some of the story lost? Not really, not really. I got a lot more story, and then but you got more of the character. So you got to see Anakin in the first one, the little kid. Then he's grown up in Attack of the Clones. Great.
Yeah.
That was probably one of my least favorites of them.
Still lots of good story in it too, though.
Still lots of great story points, built character building. I didn't like the space mullet Obi-Wan was rocking. That's okay though, because he redeemed himself in Revenge of the Sith. But Revenge of the Sith was just awesome in so many ways. Like I got to, because I couldn't picture, like, how did Anakin become Vader? Like, I was still waiting, and then we saw what happened that left him to become awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I thought that seeing that progression and that you can understand again, kind of going back and watching it as you're older, you would understand. Yeah, Anakin was doing things that maybe are a little brash, and maybe they're a little more hesitant about putting him on the Jedi Council. And that's all you saw from the films. Thank goodness we have Dave Filoni and Lucas create the Clone Wars animated series, because we got a lot more.
A lot of background.
And that really adds a little more. Did Mace Windu and Yoda know some of the stuff that happened in Clone Wars? I don't think they did. Like when he killed that kind of spider guy.
Yeah.
You know, he was, to me, he started going down the dark side then. Like he was pretty brutal. No empathy, just impaling people with his lightsaber then. So
Yep.
I think that was his start down. Losing his mother. Come on, if something happened to your mother and she got tortured and beaten and tied up for months, your stepfather didn't do diddly about it, sitting there on the farm. Yep, they took her, and guess we're not getting her back.
Yep. I haven't seen her in a while.
Like, I'm surprised Anakin just, with his metal hand, bitch slap him and get on the speeder and go. Like, I would have been pretty pissed, and I get it. And he gets out, and I know some people thought that he was whiny, but I didn't think he was whiny. I thought Anakin in that scene where he's like, I killed them. They're monsters. And I treated them like monsters. The women, the children, the dog. I mean, he slaughtered the whole camp. But let's put ourselves in those shoes.
Yeah,
you were taken away from your mother.
The same.
Right? You were taken away from your mother, and all you wanted to do was become a Jedi and do what what your mother wanted to see you do. And he did that, right? But he wants to go back and save her. The whole point of him wanting to become a Jedi is because he wanted to free the slaves. And he says that as a child in the first movie. So to go back to save his mom, and there's no saving her, she dies in his arms. Dude, that instantly clicked him in the rage. And I can see why he was so upset. He didn't get help from the Jedi Council about it.
Yep.
He didn't get help from Obi-Wan about it. He didn't even get help from Padme, who could do something politically, because even politically, they're on the outer rim. No one's it falls on deaf ears. So, like, again, as you get older, those pieces add up to a bit more than just what you originally watched and digested. And I think that's why I say it changes as you get older. It changes in your perspective. Your perspective will change as the story progresses, as you get older, as the story gets, because again, that the original trilogy is getting older, right? It's kind of, I hope we don't ever reboot it and change it, because I think those characters should be left. Don't mess with a good thing.
Please don't.
But build off that and and tell us new stories. And they don't have to be the same story switched around with new characters to pass the torch. New stories. That's why I'm very excited for Acolyte.
It'll be a different take, and I think exploring even a little further back.
Yeah.
It's going to be really, really neat.
Did you ever catch that animated series, The Resistance?
I never watched it. Never
All
did.
right.
That's the only Star Wars project I didn't
I
watch.
did watch it. And it had, again, it's got different things people can take. There's a few things that I thought the idea of having kind of like drag racing, racing, NASCAR-ish, kind of neat, like space racing. Okay,
Nice.
cool. And that could tie you into other storylines. Cool idea, cool concept. Unfortunately, it was very geared for the younger audience, which I got. But a few key points is you got to see Hux's speech about the last day of the Republic
Mm.
done in animation, and you realize from Kaz's point of, again, different points of view. At that point, Kaz is watching it. You as the audience have seen it, so you know what's about to happen. But then you realize as it happens, Kaz reacts because that's his dad and his home planet that just got blown up. And then let's fast forward to Ahsoka, the guy who's given Hera so much BS on the council.
Yep.
That's Kaz's father.
That's
from
the
the
only
Resistance.
connection I know about the
That's it, right?
Resistance.
So if you had seen the Resistance, you would understand that, that character has it coming. So he's a pain in the butt in Ahsoka, but you'll see what happens because he was so stubborn and ignorant. He's get bits in the ass with that one. So that's kind of the other it was one of the first times we see a character go to the dark side. So one of the mechanics, pilots, is friends with all these people, but they're not telling her they're the Resistance, and she kind of has an inkling. Then she feels that they're lying to her their whole time. So again, when you're betrayed by the people that you're closest with, and you have no other family, and they betray you, they're lying to you, and it forces her hand. And you see this, she goes to the dark side. So she goes and becomes a TIE fighter pilot. And one of the finales, mid-season, when that ends with her putting on a TIE helmet. It was so well. I was like, that is awesome. And they bring her back again. She comes back to the good guys, but it was cool to see someone willingly choose to go to the Empire. I thought that was really cool. So even though the Resistance, again, very geared for the children and younger tween, age, not necessarily the little kids, but older, young adults, it had some really great stuff in it that I was like, wow, I've never seen that. They would never seen a character willingly join the Imperials. So that I thought it had some chops with that and the stories it told. And I hope we see more of that with the Acolyte. And I think we are. We're going to see people that are choosing the dark side. We're going to see how the dark side rises, and which I love. I'm excited to see that. It's kind of like if you watch that newer installment of Battlestar Galactica, then they did was it The Plan, and it was like a mini series, 2 or 3 part mini series, but it told you the same story that you watched the whole 6 seasons of, but in 3 episodes you now see it from the Cylon's point of view.
Okay.
That was pretty cool. So now we're going to see it again, perspective shifting. We're going to see a story told from a dark side user. I think that's kind of cool. Like,
that's going to be very refreshing
to that side. Like, did they take a sibling of hers and she got chosen to be a Jedi and she got left and something happens and she decides to join the dark side because she's spiteful, vengeful? I don't know. We got these other kind of witches now. Seeing them be kind of walking with some swagger. What are they bringing to the table? Like, are they kind of a precursor to other mystical force use of magic, kind of like a Night Sister, but different? Could be. Could those be ancestors or precursors to the Night Sisters on Dathomir? I don't know. We don't know. But I'm open for new Star Wars, new tales, new stories, something that can't break canon, something that no one can complain about.
Right.
Fun. Just get back to the root of why we like Star Wars. It's a good story. We love lightsabers. We love blasters. We love good guys versus bad guys. We love cool vehicles, cool helmets. Just enjoy that. just enjoy that. Like, you don't have to be an all or nothing. All my chips are in for this. You know, again, like I was saying earlier, like even when I saw the sequel trilogy, I can't discount all of it, but I'll take pieces of it. Like,
Of
I
course.
guarantee you, if I ever was gonna do a trivia or take a bet that would you see a space horse in Star Wars? I'm like, hell no, it'd be a lizard kind of thing or something else. There's no space horses in Star Wars. But we dialed it in, and not only did we get space horses, but they ride in space on a spaceship instead of speeder bikes.
Yeah.
There's so many things that I was like, what the? I need an eighth of what they're smoking, I guess. I don't know. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Uh,
It just, you go all these, you go 40 plus years, and now we get a space horse. Like, really? Like, even the
yeah.
costume of the horse is pretty weak, in my opinion. Like, and I love Star Wars, but again, those are things, those are little nitpicky things that I would probably critique and criticize. Did I care about Rey becoming a Skywalker? I didn't think she probably should have took his name. You know, um, I don't. Is that to set up something? Is that what they're going to call future Jedi in the future Skywalkers? I don't know. I don't
Yeah. I
know.
mean,
There was legend stuff about Skywalkers, you know, from
right.
I don't know if that was the Chiss or something with the Chiss. So I don't know, but it's very interesting.
Yeah.
But
It
I
should
just
play out
want to,
the way it should. I
yeah,
think it'll be something cool. And it's going to be something different. And I don't think the sequels need salvaged by any means, but there needs to just be just a little more context in filling us in.
connective tissue.
Yes.
Like,
And we see Dave doing that right now. We see it. It's and I think he
100, and he's
knows
doing it
that.
in a way that people enjoy.
Yeah, just a soft way. It's not anything where it's set in stone completely to be like, hey, your opinion needs to change. And that's what I love that Lucasfilm right now under Dave Filoni is not doing. It's, hey, look at it this way. And if you were to tell someone who hates how Luke was portrayed, well, hey, he let down his best friend and his sister by, letting their son who is in your care go to the dark side. How would you feel? It's just like the whole Anakin with Shmi situation. How would you feel? It's
Mhm.
it's a good way of how they connect the characters. I'm all here for it. I think they're gonna do whatever they need to do to make not necessarily make things right, but to give you another point of view per se.
Yeah, and I think we're getting that with the inclusion of Bad Batch and Mando, where you're seeing different types of cloning stuff. Or, we heard in the Clone Wars them kidnapping kids that had Force abilities or Force. So
Mhm.
we're seeing all this. But what's that lead to? Like, I know you're a Quinlan fan. I know you love Quinlan. Um, I personally would love to see a Star Wars version of Underground Railroad.
Man,
Make Quinlan and Savage, not Savage, Asajj, make them the Harriet Tubmans in the Star Wars universe. Help them
please.
smuggling Force users and Jedi out. Like, why wouldn't that be a cool story?
Be
What
so
it
cool.
because you know think about it. You could go from week to week with trying to get these kids and who knows, adults, former Jedi on the run. You could literally go from different locations trying to move them out of the galaxy to not be found. There's so many different ways you can do that, like introducing not just humans like species, but other species as force users and getting them out. I loved in Visions 2, we got that kind of Middle Eastern Indian vibe, kind of Bollywood style.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dude, that Inquisitor looking character, badass.
Oh,
The
yeah, yeah.
woman with the little canes, double blade, like badass.
Yes.
And the little girl kind of remind me of like if Omega got power and didn't quite know how to use it, like
Yeah.
kind of
Just
reminded me of that.
untamed.
So yes. And then she gets led down, into the secret, fountain stairs hidden in the fountain in the middle of the center square, the Zocalo of the community. I thought that was
So cool.
really cool. And I hope that we get more. I mean, I don't feel that Dave throws things out. Like when he did the Purgle in Rebels, he always said he never made a filler episode. And when you saw the end of Rebels, it was like, Brilliant, Dave.
Yeah, I know what you're doing,
Brilliant.
man.
Right? He brought something back that nobody thought anything of, and it
Right.
was so cool. And we get it in Ahsoka, and that live action, it looked awesome.
And then
So
throwing it into the Mandalorian when they're in hyperspeed, and Grogu looks off and sees them. Like
see them
it's
traveling,
really
dude,
cool.
so well done. So I think when you have Obi-Wan, Quinlan was here. That's a hint for something. The
Yes.
fact that we're getting Asajj in the next or coming up next at the Bad Batch.
And knowing the last
even,
time she was relevant, she was with Quinlan Voss. There's no way. There's just no way. And I know people are probably tired of hearing it, but like, how impactful would it be for Quinlan Voss to be a part of this story, and knowing that Omega has to get away? Like, she has to be a part of the story. Asajj Ventress is a part of the story. We know that. But Quinlan Voss, this is his time to come back. And we
I
only
would
see
love
him in animation.
I
And this
would
is an
love to
animated
see
show.
him get more than a cameo experience that no one realizes even in Phantom Menace. I really want that.
Oh,
I
yeah,
want that for you, the Quinlan fans,
yeah.
because he looks badass, but his story, he's sent, and again, I want to see more of this. He's sent by the Jedi to go assassinate somebody
Yep.
because he's a dark side. Okay. That was the whole reason Anakin didn't want Mace Windu to, not just because he needs him to save Padme, but that's not the Jedi way. And Mace Windu goes to kill him. He's too dangerous, and he chops his arm off, and then he gets thrown out the window because of all that. So here you're sending Quinlan to do the same dark deeds.
Yep.
But we don't think that there's nothing wrong with that. Like that, we're blurring a lot, and I want to see more of those blurred lines. And we got a hint of that in Rogue One when Andor was telling her, you don't understand sacrifice. This is what I've done. Da, 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 da. I've done things. We're going to learn about that. Like, when we first met you in the first 2 minutes of the movie and you shot the guy in the back, there's going to be more of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to see, and in Andor, the series, did you enjoy it much? Did you watch a lot of it?
Yeah, I liked Andor. I think it was just a different pace. And I can see why people love it, and I can see why people didn't care for it. But yeah, I'm indifferent. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
I liked it.
I
Different.
need to give it a rewatch though.
Yeah, I've watched it a couple times. Every time I've watched everything a million times because again, I got stuck with 3 movies, so anything else is like more consumption.
Give me more.
Yeah, but things I really liked was in that you're getting to see Andor develop to be, and I hope we see what are those deeds you had to do. What are those things? Because we see other members making those sacrifices, like they're taking off people and shooting them, and yeah, if you want your family to survive, you're going to do what we say. We're going to go rob this thing of credits and let's go. So we're seeing a blurred line. The other thing I thought was interesting was when you see the one kid whose dad had that kind of like shop, like a junkyard shop or whatnot, if you will. He gets killed, and the kid comes back with like an IED.
Yeah.
To me, that kind of felt like what our troops are seeing when they're deployed overseas, IEDs and rebel fights and stuff like that. Like, to me, that was kind of bringing what the conflict in the Middle East in a Star Wars universe, almost kind of that kind of tension that most people wouldn't have thought of. And I thought that was very, very real. The speech that Andor's adopted mother gives at the end, I was asleep, or I will not sleep anymore, and you shouldn't either. Like, stand up and fight these bastards. Like, dude, that her speech is a great inspiration for the story to go further. Skarsgård's character, awesome. And his speech about sacrifice, that was a Shakespearean soliloquy. And I think that was probably one of the best lines I've ever heard. Best dialogue in all Star Wars. I thought one of the best, because he really talks about sacrifice and how he has to use the tools of his enemy. He's already surrendered his mind to the darkest reaches to attain that goal of freedom, and to willingly have to make sacrifices. Like when he's talking to Saul, you can see why Saul Guerrero's on the edge, because here's the guy who's working with him to create an alliance to rebel, And yet he just sold out one of his top companies, one of his top little troops to do so, sold him out to the Empire so that it doesn't give up him and the rest of them.
Right.
And you could see why. And I love those little pieces they're telling in Andor. Again, it's perspective, and it's watching it all. You're getting another perspective why you see Saul Guerrero in Rogue One so off the deep end. Because if you've seen him in Clone Wars or in Rebels, he wasn't crazy.
Right.
You know, so you kind of slowly start to see, like at first I was like, well, maybe those chemicals when he was on Geonosis really did that to him. Nope, that's not it either. It's probably why he's needing a respirator at this point. It explains that, but it's more of he's seeing his own friends and partners dissolve and give up other co-workers for the greater cause.
Right.
You know, and you can see it. Why he gets paranoid? Is it him? And he's pointing to two tubes, and now two tubes like, hey, don't get me involved. You know, like it was kind of cool. Like I like that, and I want to see more of that in Andor.
Yeah.
The slow burns to get the one way out. That could have been an episode, and then the next one, one way out, and you know, to drag it on for 3 or 4. But again, I don't mind it. It's different. There's not a lot of lightsabers and blasters so far. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because you need to see
there's a bigger picture.
How's the galaxy getting behind people? When we see, was it Clone Wars and the Martell sisters? I know Tony from Star Wars Sith, those are some of his favorite characters. I
don't really care for them either.
No, they're annoying. But you get a perspective that is needed. Right, because they look at the Jedi as, well, they turned against her. So you're hearing what the rest of the galaxy has heard, rumor mill, you know, can on a string. You're hearing what they all think of the Jedi through their talking. And I thought that was kind of, again, different perspective. And it's great to kind of step outside and see that. I'm not a fan of the Martell sister characters, but I feel we'll see them again somehow, somewhere. Don't care. But I do think it was necessary as a bullet point to kind of get an idea of where everybody else, why aren't there any more Jedi? You know, what happened to them? There's got to be talk. There was a giant temple in the middle of the biggest city, you know, and what happened? Like, they were respected, and we're going to see that in the Acolyte. So I think from the Acolyte forward, you're going to see how the maybe not so pragmatic dogma of the Jedi led to their demise. You're going to start to see more of that. I hope
these are questions that we can get answered, and I really, really, really hope that we get to see. And just like you said, like Yoda, I want to see him. But just even like all the shows and stories that we've talked about just through this episode alone, seeing how it all comes back together, and we still have questions like, why is this? What's gonna happen? But this has to happen, you know, like stuff like that. Like, that's what I think Star Wars has fans set up for good ideas.
I think fans are in for a heartbreak here. I really think, you know, time to get your tissues out.
Get them.
Your Star Wars tissues out. You know,
that's what they're made for. It's for Star Wars.
Yeah, they're made for that, because I think we're going to get that. And I think some people think, oh, some are going to survive. The fact that Rogue One allowed for the characters to be non-existent after, awesome.
Yeah,
awesome. It fixes any it doesn't ruin any canon. That was great. I didn't mind that. I thought that was kind of cool. They made the ultimate sacrifice. So now when they're talking about a lot of people, good people lost their lives to get us this data, you know, these plans, it weighs more now. That has a lot more weight to it now, because we saw Rogue One and we saw the efforts that were made. So again, I'm very excited for where Star Wars is going, kind of what we've had.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Did we figure out today who wins that debate, Vader versus Anakin? I don't know if there's really as much of a debate as maybe someone thinks there is. I personally don't think there's too much of a debate. I think they're both equally important to the saga and the story.
Right.
I think one picks up where the other one failed and brings him to redemption. So to tell the tale, you can't tell the tale without both. They're equal. They're equally important, in my opinion. You know, you can't tell Anakin's story without Luke, because Luke redeems him. You can't tell Luke's story without having his father be the predecessor before. What makes him great? What makes him this pilot? So I think they're really, when you look at them, they're almost one and the same. Just one chose the different path.
Right. While the other kind of took on what could have been his original path. So yeah, I agree with that too. So Eli, if you are watching, that is how we are gonna end that, because it's kind of, there's both sides to it, man. That's a good point though. I'm glad you hit us up about it. But yeah, man, I mean, with a good hour and a half, talking about all of the different points in Star Wars, and I feel like we've hit every damn movie and every damn series.
We
So
probably did.
that's why I love having, guests like you on, because we can really talk about every aspect within Star Wars. But to kind of end it off, Patrick, let everyone watching, if everyone's made it this far, let them know where they can find you.
If you want to find me, you can check me out on YouTube at Poptography. If you're any of the other social media platforms, check out Poptography YT. And again, I do creative Star Wars images as well as unboxings and toy hunts, reviews of them and stuff like that. So, and I get to enjoy things like this, where I get to come on other people's channels. And most likely Brandon will be on one of my other segments that I do, is movies that inspire the pop, where we take a pop and we talk about the movie scene that inspired it. We talk a little bit about, did it make the mark? Does it bring that home? Does it bring it home for you? As well as how well does that pop look? Is it crappy? It's not as good. It could have been whatever, but it's always fun to do things like that. And I can't wait to have you on my channel, do one of those with you.
That'd
So
be
thank you
awesome.
for having me on. And hopefully, I didn't talk too much and bore some people with my thoughts on Star Wars.
No, that's the whole point of this, man. Just getting these ideas out, because there's things in Star Wars you think until you start talking with other heads, and you're like, oh, dude, I didn't think of it like that. So now you got me wanting to watch Resistance. I've always kept it on the back burner. And if there's anything important in it, then I'll know about it, like Ziano. Like, that's awesome. I love the connection. But now I have to watch it because you freaking brought it up and made it sound interesting.
Well, there's another character that I think is cool that I might cosplay as.
Oh, nice.
Because as I'm getting older, this is getting lighter. It's getting grayer and whiter. But there is one of the racers is an ex-TIE pilot. So
Nice.
imagine seeing a TIE pilot uniform with the arms ripped off and he's muscle bound. And
Tight.
his helmet is, did you see what is the Squadrons, where it's got the tie
Oh,
with
yeah.
the red skull painted? Well,
Yep.
imagine seeing an original TIE helmet with a white skull painted that's all distressed and old, because that's what his helmet is. Dude, he
That's
looks
tight.
awesome. And I
Nice.
just thought that was just a neat little character they added. Like, there is some cool stuff in it, but again, you got to pick and pull it, again, geared for kids, but it's cool. It is cool.
Right.
There is some stuff in it that is cool. You'll see. Watch a few. You'll see.
Yeah. And see, like, it's Star Wars, it's made for all of us. So, hey, if you're a kid,
Everybody.
if
We
you're
got
1 year
we got
old,
everything from the young Jedi adventures for the younglings now, right? The
yeah.
young Padawans coming up. I'm sure your little one. I know my young niece is hugely into it. So I shared the photo,
Awesome.
and she didn't know they made a 2-pack of Kai and Tabor until I showed her the picture. So now that's on her list of, Daddy, we need to get that. But it's
Awesome.
great to share Star Wars with I'm telling you, you're gonna have a great time. Will from Padawan Pops, him and Mrs. Padawan Pops will be expecting in June. I'm very excited for them. And I think any adult that has their kids and they get to share Star Wars with, this is why you share. You try to find me another thing, maybe Marvel, but there's really nothing else out there film genre wise that it just passes on to generation like Star Wars does. And that's the beauty of Star Wars. That's why we love. That's why you and I love it. That's why we've been sitting here talking for almost 2 hours about it today.
Yep.
And our kids one day be laughing like, "Can you see my dad sitting there and that guy yammering on
Freaking
about
nerds.
Star Wars for hours?" But it's funny. But one day they will get into it. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Like my kids, like I said, they like to see it, but they're not like, "Woo!" Did they love flying the Millennium Falcon? Yeah, but I think their dad is more like, "I can't wait for you to put us into hyperspace." I'm like, punch it. Like, I was just excited to give up my seat to be a pilot so that they could do it,
Right.
And so those are things too that we didn't have when we were young. We didn't have Galaxy's Edge. I could only imagine what would have. I would have been an Imagineer, I think, if they had that. That would have hook, line, and sinker. I would have had my parents leave me in Disney, and I probably would have found somewhere in an orphanage to live in Orlando and grow up as a Star Wars kid. I probably would have, because I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
There's no way you could have gotten my ass back on a plane if I was a kid and saw Galaxy's Edge. No way.
Right.
So
That's why we love it, guys. And like I said, Star Wars brings two awesome dudes together, and make sure you go follow Patrick. But until next time, all of you viewers, may the force be with you. I'm Clan Brandolorian as always. We'll see you in the next one. I'm out.